Hello class, welcome to 4.2a, Measures of Central Tendency. Measures of central tendency, there's three different ones we look at. That would be your mean, median, and mode. Hopefully all this sounds familiar, but a little review here is mean is just the average, which is when you add up all of your numbers, then divide by the number of numbers. What you see beside that is that little x bar is equal to the sum of x over n. That is going to be important when we go to look for how to do this in our calculator. Other one we can look at is median. This is when you're ordered numbers numerically, and it would be the middle number. You may need to add the two middle numbers and divide by 2. When we end up with an even amount of numbers, you need to find the middle of them. And lastly, mode, this is the number that appears the most. This one will not be able to find in our calculator as we show you how to do that today. If the data has an outlier, so we've been talking about outliers in our scatter plots, but if it has an outlier, the best representation of the data would be your median, because when you look at your median, that's going to cross off those big numbers or those really small numbers and just kind of more accurately find you the middle of the data. Where if there is no outlier, this is when the mean would be your best representation of the data. So two things to consider as we kind of analyze these measures of central tendency. All right, let's take a look at how to do this. So when we look at example 1, we are going to be using a calculator to help find a lot of these values. As you can see here, this is going to be a lot of the same stuff we did with our other scatter plots, where we're going to put the data into the L1 stat, arrow to calc, and select our number, select the one var stats. So taking a look at this video, we'll see what we're going to look there. Start with stat, edit, and then we're going to start putting these numbers in. 104, 117, etc., etc. So take a few seconds to do that. Now, once we have all of those in our list, we are looking for the stat calc one var stats. Now, if you have an old calculator, you're just going to go to calculate and get to this screen. Okay, take a look at this screen. What we want to look here is for a couple things. When we look at our mean, that is going to be that x bar. Okay, that 1 over 22. When we look at our median, that's going to be down a little bit further. So let's see if this works out here. The mean is going to be that x bar. All right, what that's going to do is if you look at your calculator and we look at that summation of x divided by n, what that's going to do for us is we are going to take that 976 and divide it by the 8 pieces. So what your calculator is doing is adding all them up, dividing by 8, and it's already telling us that the mean is 122. If we're looking for the median, we're going to have to scroll down a little bit. So scroll that down, and you can see right there on the screen, the median is 111. And now in order to find our mode, this is the one our calculator will not do, but we are going to look for the one that happens the most often. So just got a quick glance. There are 3 104s. That would be our mode. Now when we look at which one of these would be our best piece of data, well, question is there any outliers? So if we are going to look through these, the one that's kind of standing out at this point would be this 189. That looks way above the rest. So if there is an outlier, that is going to tell us that the median 111 would be our best because that outlier of 189. Okay, let's take a look at the next example. In example 2, we are going to use the same data set, but let's exclude the outlier. What are the new measures of central tendency? Which measures best represent the data? Take a second to pause now before we make sure we get them done. So just repeat that process. Get rid of that number, the 189, do your stat, do your calc, and do your one-var stats. So remember, hopefully we should be getting these numbers after the one-var stats. If you didn't, make sure you go back and rewind and watch how to do that. But what we're looking for, again, is in our X bar. That is going to be, again, that summation over our n. This is telling us we add them all up. That was our 787. There is now only 7 pieces of data, and that is going to tell us that it's going to be 112, if we round. So that would be our mean. If we look at our median, again, we're going to have to scroll down here. Look there, 109. That'll save us from having to list them all in order. And our mode, well, that's still going to be 104. Now, which one of these best represents the data set? Well, thinking back to what we just said, right? If there are no outliers, which we got rid of, that is going to make the 112 our best piece of data. It doesn't matter that it's not a number up there in the numbers because this would be our average. And if we want to look at how do these values compare to ones without the outlier, the mean and the median lowered when the outlier was dropped. Because again, we got rid of that 189 that was way above average, so everything else should be lower. Okay, let's look at another one. Okay, take a minute here to pause and put these numbers into our new list, calculating out the mean, median, and mode, and answer those questions, and we'll go over them in a few seconds. So after putting in that into our data, we should be coming up with an 8 as our mean, 5 as the median, and 5 as the mode. The second task there was to add 10 to each value, giving us 15, 26, 13, 15, and 21. And when we recalculate, we should end up with a mean of 18, median of 15, mode of 15. So what happens there is if every number went up by 10, the central tendency also went up by 10. And this goes up or down by that same number that you add or subtract to all of the data set. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. Example 4. The following are the prices of different models of cell phones. Find the measures of central tendency and identify the measure that best represents the data. Okay, take a minute here to go and plug them into our list, do our calc and one variable stats. And we'll pause and we'll come back and check what our answers here and discuss our answers. In the first part, we should end up with an average or a mean of $460, median of $379, and the mode of $479. If you are a little confused about now the store is offering a discount of 25%, what are the new measures of central tendency? So first thing we need to do is take 25% of each of those numbers. So multiply everything by 0.25. And we should get some new numbers, and then we'll find our mean, median, mode. Pause here, and we'll check back in when you're done. After we multiply by that 0.75, we should have come up with our new numbers. Basically applying that discount, we'll come up with a 345 for your mean, 284.25 for your median, and $359.25 for your mode. Now, what ended up happening here? Basically, all of the data also changed by taking off 25% of each of the mean, median, and mode. Okay. Example 5, a used car lot has 15 vehicles on it with an average price of $12,400. If 2 cars are added to the lot and the mean changes to $12,800, what do we know about the cost of the 2 cars? Well, if we think about what we had for the first part, we had a $12,400 as our average. So that was going to be when we knew the sum was divided by 15. Afterwards, we realized that there was an addition of 2 cars, and that made our price go up to, or our average go up to $12,800. So that was when our bar of 17 cars. Now, if we take a minute to kind of just compare the cost of the cars, we can just kind of solve these like equations, where that 15 would now be 100, multiply both sides by 15, and we have 186,000. And if we go over here to figure out what was the cost that we added with the additional 2 cars, so we could multiply by 17, and that's going to get us 217 and 600. What we know about this car is, if we took this 217 after we added the 2 cars and subtract out the 186,000, that can at least tell us that the 2 new cars increased $31,600 on average. If 1 car is listed at $12,000, what is the cost of the second car? Well, in this one, we figured out that the 2 cars added an additional $31,600. So if we take that $31,600 and we know that one of them was $12,000, that would allow us to go with the $19,600. Okay, guys, that's some stuff that we can do with our measures of central tendency. Make sure to complete all the rest of your work that's in Canvas. All right, good luck. Have a great day.